In a world where 6-inch rules all, can the Super 7 G.I. Joe O-Ring figures survive? Hello and welcome to Modern Toy Fair. I'm your host, Mr. Modern Toy Fair, and I'm joined by the founder of the Neck Illuminati, the delayer of shipments, the procrastinator of pre-orders, the perfect person, my YouTube wife, Mrs. Modern Toy Fair, Jarmar_Games. But that's not all. I'm also joined by the man known as Bearded Spice. The man that Modern Toy Fair has full custody over. The man that Optimus Prime Popty refuses to stop. The Twilight Knight, the master of Mac, the three-pump chump of taking this show off the rails, Nate. How you guys doing?
The man with the coolest smoking hoodie in the world.
Jesus Christ, that fucking moo-moo.
Some would say that hoodie is smoking hot.
Wow.
Whatever. That's
Wow.
right.
If you're wondering what we're talking about, you have to head over and check out Nate's unboxing video of the HasLab His Tank on the channel. Where you get to see him.
It is definitely worth it.
It's
one
so
of the only
warm.
videos I watched on the channel. So
Yeah, well,
shout out to you, Nate. It was good.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
you're a
I
big
was
fan,
driving
Nate.
while watching, but
That's all good.
Big fan of Nate, not big fan of the channel.
yeah.
Anyway,
That
so
includes myself, by the way. Go ahead.
we are here to discuss the fact that recently Super 7 they initially announced it back when they started their campaign for that giant Cobra ship thing, their HasLab project that they were working on essentially, where it was going to have a mix of reaction figures, but then that they revealed they had the rights to do O-Ring figures and revive what has been pretty much a dead version of G.I. Joe for a very long time, aside from Hasbro occasionally bringing it back for like special occasions. And actually, I think it was either today or yesterday, for us, if you're watching this, we record like a week and a half in advance, they officially announced that ship didn't get funded. But the O-Ring figures are still going to be a line in 2024. And it kind of makes me want to ask the question, like I did at the beginning here, has G.I. Joe moved on? And can this survive? But before we get into that, Nate, I want you to just kind of give a brief explanation as the resident G.I. Joe expert. What are O-Ring figures for those of us who are uncultured swine?
Yeah, I kind of wish I had one nearby, but I don't.
It's almost as if you
surprisingly.
had a box of them in your car that you could have used.
Yeah. Oh shit, that makes me look like a real dickhead too. Anyway, O-ring
It's indicative of
were very common in the 80s across not only G.I. Joe, but some of the Mego Pocket Heroes, early, all kinds of different, early stuff. Basically what it is that the torso connects with a rubber band, or what is considered an O-ring, like a plumber's O-ring. It connects to like a hook in the pelvis through the legs on the hook through the pelvis, keeps the whole figure together and makes it super articulated at the waist and the legs. So automatically you've got a better moving figure than say what was at the time with Kenner Star Wars. So that is an O-ring. O-ring also represents the G.I. Joe era, which ran from 82 to 94 originally. And then when it was brought back in the early, or I guess I should say late 90s, when the new line kind of came, it was a mix of O-rings, but then like kind of regular,
the regular
Star Wars style
dumbbell style.
Yep. And it kind of went in and out of fashion for a long time until the 25th anniversary line started, which was like 2007, which pretty much ended the O-Ring as it was, except for what you said, Michael, when like they bring it back for special occasions, special re-releases, that Sky Striker HasLab that they did, and some of the current Transformer crossovers that they're doing.
Yeah, thank you for that. And then if you're like me and Jamar, you use these special articulated figures to make little helicopter people, because you could twist them around and their legs would spin like a helicopter. It was great. And which drives
intended use.
people like Nate crazy because
It hurts.
those O-rings also nowadays have to be replaced in older figures because they obviously it's a piece of rubber from 30 years ago. It's not gonna
Or longer.
Yeah, or longer. It's not necessarily gonna hold up. So it's a very interesting choice. Like, I get that Super 7 seems to be the nostalgia company at this point. Like, they're trying to find anything people are nostalgia for and go through and make action figures of it. So, do you think that G.I. Joe has moved on? Because we have the classified line. It had a rocky start because they had, like, all the weird techie bullshit and weapons, and people were like, oh, that's not what I wanted. I wanted my old Joes just bigger. But then they kind of corrected course and gave the fans that, and now this line is probably Hasbro's most popular, like, main line as far as, like, between Marvel Legends, Star Wars, this, and maybe like Transformers might be more popular. This doesn't get as much.
Yeah, I would say
about.
like as a traditional action figure line, though,
Mm-hmm.
it's probably the best. Transformers, they're not the same.
Yeah,
they're action figures, but they're not. You know.
So what like it's obviously like it's huge popularity. Aside from like every now and then you'll get Peg Warmer or something like that, or some people wait for clearance or Ross in some cases. But do we think that these collectors who are buying the classified line, have any interest in going back to the old O-ring setup, like the old 3 3/4 line?
Jarmar, do you want to make an answer? Do you have anything to add before
Nate takes the next half hour to?
I mean, just
no.
I have thoughts, you know.
Mm-hmm.
No, I feel like my opinion is obviously shaped by what I collect, and it is turtles. So like I can kind of understand what I'll say is like both sides of the argument of like, does this need to exist? It seems like you already have something great. And what comes to mind for me is obviously NECA making great, turtle toys from the TV show, all that good stuff. And then you have Super 7 making the better version of the Playmates line. So I think there is still a spot. I am curious to know, though, because if I was a G.I. Joe purist, nostalgia, and I don't even, to me, I'm interested in a line just because it's a neat idea that something like that is coming back. And I don't even, we helicopter ours. So like, it's just such a cool idea that this is making a thing. So I'm curious, as you being the G.I. Joe guy, if that is something that you're even just slightly intrigued by. Also, because I'm assuming this is 3 3/4, right? Did I miss that?
Right.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, that would be actually very weird if it wasn't.
And they did promote
Right.
to try to be like, hey, you can use these with your reaction figures as well, which I don't see why.
Yeah, I don't like that.
You'd want to, because they're very different. Like 5
Yeah.
points of articulation versus what a G.I. Joe figure was. Like, as you mentioned, a night and day difference.
Right. So there's a lot there. What is like the one thing though for me that I love when it comes to older characters or older properties?
New hotness.
New hotness.
New and
I
shiny.
want
new and shiny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm more interested in classified. I want to see how they can change and upgrade and modernize. And, I want to buy these figures for the 4th time. Okay. It's just like my music collection. I've replaced it multiple times. My movies the same. Over the years, I've gotten smarter at it and stopped that part, but not so much here. But I love classified. It's my favorite line. It's great. It's really, I'm not gonna say it's perfect because there's always room to improve, but it's great. That being said, and I think about this a lot, because when I, started going to things like JoeCon and stuff like that, JoeCon was a different place than it was 5 years before that, even because JoeCon used to be about the 12-inch guys and the guys who played with G.I. Joe in the 60s and 70s. And as those guys got older, they kind of got phased out, but they were always looking. Yeah, there's that too. But, they got very little when it came to new product, even less so than us during the lean years because, there was no There's hardly any 12-inch product.
They weren't making the Ken dolls anymore like they were.
Right. Please don't disparage that, because G.I. Joe is the original action figure. So without G.I. Joe, the supposed Ken doll that you said, you wouldn't have your fucking Mafex as it was. So I'm just saying, show some respect. Show some respect.
I'm just saying, that was generally what they were built as, though. Like, they were built with the 5 points of articulation, right?
No, not G.I. Joe. No, they had they were America's movable fighting man. Show some goddamn respect. He had all kinds of movement. He had articulation in the arms and the biceps and the swivels, and the 12-inch original 12-inch figure was very articulated.
So really? Okay, so let's unpack this. So like we're talking elbow articulation.
Mm-hmm.
Now when you wrist articulation in the 60s.
Oh yeah. You gotta remember, this is a 12-inch figure.
I'm aware, but there's companies nowadays in the fucking 6-inch lines who can't figure out fucking proper wrist articulation. So that's why I'm shocked here.
The original issue ones, the hands were kind of like weird.
Oh, they had the
but later on, you had in the 70s, you had the Kung Fu grip. So you had the rubberized. Seriously, literally, they listed as.
Anytime an action figure has this as their grip, I just.
But these were the first ones that had like rubberized ones that you could like, I don't know, it could move like and like hold stuff. Well, the whole point was you were supposed to like, let them fight each other by holding on, and whoever,
In the 60s, they fought each other by holding hands?
70s. So you would take the Kung Fu grip.
This is the peace era, okay?
And like put them together, and like they would be fighting. It's the Kung Fu grip, Michael.
I've never seen a Kung Fu movie where that's how they fought.
It's not a Kung Fu movie. It was what was listed on the fucking G.I. Joe box with Kung Fu grip. I don't know what else to tell you. But I also want to point out, this was before my time as well. Like, I was born after this.
Oh yeah, we joke about you being old, but you're not that old. Mm-hmm. You haven't been phased out by life.
I am prime for I'm a real American hero, but I was not around. But I've had some. Over the years, I've had some of the G.I. Joe figures, and I've had reproductions of like the original 1964 releases, and then when they became Adventure Team, where they got the cool beards and the real hair and stuff like that. Oh. Yeah, the flocked beards and hair, and such, like the Kung Fu grip and all that. So I certainly get the appeal of wanting to appeal to that pure nostalgia customer. So, because they would over the years reissue G.I. Joe, the 12-inch versions. My point was they were so hard up for product, especially because even during the 50th anniversary of the brand, no 12-inch product was released whatsoever. So, I mean, that's a slap in the face. And once again, we're doing it again. But like you said, they're almost all gone in.
Yeah.
Not quite. But,
sorry, Grandpa. You don't collect action figures now anyway.
Yeah.
You can't even remember what you ate last Tuesday, let alone what you played with as a kid.
Well, now
I'm not that old either. They're like in their late 50s, early 60s, So like I often wondered, watching the 12-inch guys at JoeCon and seeing our sets, which were at the time modern versions. So the 4-inch more like using the Rise of Cobra body builds and that type of thing, which were really well constructed figures. So using those molds and things like that. And I thought it was interesting because, the 12-inch guys were getting a reproduction of what they had as a kid in new forms. So they were getting all kinds of cool, new adventure sets that had never been done before, but in that same style. Where we were getting really cool sets of what was more recently available. And I always because they made that switch around, I think, 2010 to 2011 from O-Ring sets, because they were still making them at the club. I'm being kind of choppy, but they were still doing O-Ring sets until then. But then they switched over to the 25th anniversary style body. And I often would think about why no one would do that O-Ring style again, because there were people who would rather have had that than that modern style. Mm-hmm. So I do think that there is, I think this is probably the best route that they could have gone in for this. I thought the idea of the reaction was cool, and it was very exciting at first, seeing them on the peg, seeing that card art, but really looking at the figures, you're like, this is not what I want. Like, this isn't it. But I liked what they were doing. They were getting things from the cartoon. They were putting things from the comics and things like that had never been made before into these reaction figures, which was sort of like what they were doing with their Ultimates, which I have to assume whatever last wave was offered is going to be the last, because that's too close to classified,
right? And
not
good
working with it. So what is it? It's not even that. I don't even want to get into that. It's just it's for the same audience, but it's like it's a different thing, and it's just slightly off, so it doesn't work. Where you can have the 6-inch and the 3 3/4 inch if you wanted to, but to have 6 and 7 inch, it doesn't work. And so I like the idea, and I hope that's what they do. I hope they do quote unquote new figures. I hope they do their own whole thing, or possibly pull from comics and cartoons again. I think that there is a market, and Super 7 is the right one for that, because it is going to be a niche market. Because classified is what is going to be the overall mainstream toy collectors. That's what they're going to be focused on. But there is still going to be that niche that's going to go for that Super 7 product. And I think it's awesome that they're doing it. My only concern is just things have been choppy with this license already. And so I don't know. It's how invested are people going to get?
Yeah, because people have lost a lot of value and faith in Super 7 over the past year or two.
Right,
so,
as we've talked a lot about. But I hope it does well for them. I think it's a great untapped potential. I think this is the right way to go. I think that there absolutely is a market for it. But again, a niche market, but I think what could potentially be successful enough. I was going to bring up those Haya figures, but it's not really relevant to the conversation, and I would just go on another tangent. So I'm going to stop and throw it back.
Okay, because from the outside looking in, as someone who I remember GI Joe as a kid because I had a couple, not many, and now being old and just now getting into the classified line for my own purposes, it is kind of just. I don't know. I have a hard time being that nostalgia person. There's very few things that'll get me. So to be in a world where I have these super crazy articulated and detailed figures, I want something that's like I had as a kid, just doesn't appeal to me, especially with the economy the way it is. If I was, independently wealthy, the channel was making us all rich here. I'd be give me everything. But when you have to pick and choose about your collection, I feel the new and shiny, like you say, is the clear winner.
But also, you don't actually, there's no, not even talking nostalgia, you don't even have any real connection with most of these characters.
Yeah, I've literally no
connection. Because you've Frankensteined them into completely different things. So, which is also, that's also part of the charm of the line and part of the history as well. So there's value there.
They could all trade pants because it was so easy to unhook that little rubber band. You just had to be real careful and not lose it inside the body.
Yeah. So definitely for you and for others like you, and I don't mean that as a detriment or anything like that. That makes sense. You wouldn't be interested in this, which is why I also, it's not going to be. I don't think it's going to be any type of competition for classified.
I don't think it's a competition directly, but I still feel like you're competing for people's money. Because people only have so many dollar bills to throw across, and if they're already balls deep in this $25 6-inch line,
right?
How are you gonna? Because we know Super 7 ain't gonna be charging cheap for these.
That's what I've heard is they're gonna be $25 as well.
$25 for a 30 to 40-year-old style figure versus a classified figure. You're telling me that's gonna...
Reaction's almost 20.
And those peg warm.
Well, and they do. I'm not going to argue that. But again, yes, they may be at Target, okay? But this is not going to be a mainline brand for them. I mean, this is not good. I mean, it probably will be in some stores, but this isn't going to be what they're going to be counting on, is to go after classified numbers. These are for the people. And if you talk about competition for the dollar, there's a ton of people out there, and I know because I've heard them bitch for years online. There's still a ton of G.I. Joe fans, and I don't know if you guys know this. G.I. Joe fans will tell you their opinions.
I've watched the live stream.
Many of them don't want 6-inch. There is still a hardcore. I only want 3 3/4, and I only want O-ring. So there is still that. There are G.I. Joe fans who are not buying classified that will buy these. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense. Is there not like a need out there for, because what I think of this line, one, it's because it interests me, not in the sense of like I'm gonna actually buy it, but like if I see it out, I'm like, oh, I remember that. Like, do you not think that could be like a little bit of the target? Because classified's one thing, but that's like if you are full in like kind of toy collector, right?
Like that's not gonna
see the value of that. Exactly. But if you see that hanging up on the shelf, just a lot like the, again, Playmate Turtles, like you see that and you're like, oh, I remember Icebox and Heavy Gun and those legendary, like,
are those actual names?
Those are not actual names.
No.
But they sound great.
I was about to be impressed as fuck. I'm like, is he really just dropping some fucking G.I. Joe names right now?
But Super 7 is going to release them in 2025.
Yeah. But that would be, I just feel like that's kind of what this for, because that's basically what the reaction line is. It's like a different version of a Funko Pop in a sense. So like they're just giving you maybe a more focused nostalgia pick up and buy kind of thing.
I also think this is more a reaction figure that you'd actually want to open.
Facts.
That's true too.
100% agree. True. Because right now the reaction figures have zero appeal to open them.
I don't understand people who open reaction figures. Like the whole point is the presentation.
Yeah,
that's a complete. It's not a toy.
I've only
like
seen
when they say on the back, "This is not a toy." Like that's what they mean. Like it's not meant to be opened. It's just meant to look like this. It is what it is.
Yeah, I've only seen less than a handful that actually are like good looking figures to where I'd be like, okay, I could justify buying that, let alone considering maybe opening it.
They have done some, like the Dark Crystal, both versions, the original movie and the Netflix series. Both of those figures were extremely well done. The Godzilla I like a lot, and the Beast Wars.
Let's say Beast Wars.
The Beast Wars reaction figures are. I have been very tempted to get those.
I keep seeing that grape flavored Megatron T-Rex.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man. Yeah. I'm not going to spend $20 on it, though.
No. So, but yeah, that's...
Okay. So...
That was my... Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think it's great.
Good. Yeah. So I guess the question now becomes, you mentioned the price point is rumored to be $25. I'm going to be shocked if it's that low, because Reaction are only $20 and they're not nearly going to be as detailed or articulated as these or come with any accessories. So let's say it is somehow magically $25. Even as a G.I. Joe fan, who you might be excited because they make some new stuff that had never been made before in that style, and you do have those style figures, would you spend $25 on an O-Ring figure in 2024?
Maybe one or two. Like maybe no more than 5. Like I would probably, if they came out with some really cool Cobra Commander that had never been made or something like that, or some sort of Snake Eyes that I always wanted, something like that, yes, I would. But I'm not going to buy it. Like, I'm not going to go like, oh, I'm all in on this. Like, I'm not even only partially in. Like, I'm not in. Like, this isn't for me. While it is, it's not. Like, I have classified. I'm good with that. I dabbled in the reaction ones because I thought some of those were really cool with their packaging, and I only got them when, like, I could get a good deal on them or something. Mm-hmm. But I ended up getting rid of them because ultimately I didn't need them. The only thing kind of like that I did keep was the Transformers movie ones, just because I love the movie so much. But again, that was all about, the presentation and stuff like that. So, but yeah, like I have no need for them at this point. And to the other point, I don't think they're going to be that detailed per se. I think these are definitely going to be an extension of the 80s ones. I think they are going to be simple sculpts. I think they are going to have more articulation.
I
for
feel
sure.
like the 80s ones, maybe I'm just misremembering, but I feel like some of them, like the pants and stuff, at least had some sculpt to them, like pouches and stuff.
Oh no, they definitely had great sculpting, especially for the time. But we're not talking on the same level of what figures are today.
Oh yeah, no.
Like it's still going to be
I wasn't expecting like anything.
That reaction,
aesthetic. Well, reaction even feels like a step down from that though, because reactions seem very just smooth and basic.
It also just depends on what reaction you're talking about, because some of the stuff that I think really did them harm, and that's what most people think of as the stuff when they were grouped with Funko, and they just released they just diarrheaed just a huge amount of product across like 2 years, and they all looked awful. I think they've definitely gotten better. But I'm not going to say they're great. There's
been some good ones though. Like I know the ones you had, the like the ODB one, I thought looked kind of pretty, looked good. Yeah, there's been some that I've come across, like the whole hip hop ones that I've seen that felt like they've been pretty good. They've almost tempted me.
Yeah, but that's also like a thing where you don't have a figure of those.
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying,
it's gonna be more appealing because you have nothing to compare it to. Like, there's not like, I spent $20 this, or I could go get this better one for $5 more that's bigger and has all the accessories and stuff. So like,
which they have been doing ultimates though. So
they have.
Maybe Ultimate O-Rings coming in 2028.
Oh my god, that name, Ultimate O-Ring.
Ultimate O-Ring.
I just like the way that sounds.
I know, because now I want onion rings.
Oh my god. So do we think that these are gonna be packed with like accessories like they used to be, or
I can't imagine like they used to be, because I was thinking about that today, because like some GI Joe figures just came with a bunch of cool stuff. They came with like little hoses that you could connect them, and there were places to put stuff, and it's so really, especially for the time, just so cool. I think these are going to come with like maybe a backpack, maybe a weapon of some kind, and probably not much more, at least initially. I don't think they're going to be truly decked out, just because I think that it's cost prohibitive.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I would see, like the little plastic, all one color.
Yeah, I figured it wouldn't be like
that.
Any paint deco on them. They'd just be able to remolded plastic work. Because otherwise it would defer too much from what you already had, kind of thing. And I feel like that's not what you need to do with this line. Like especially if you're not going back and recreating everything that's already been made but better, and you're just making new stuff, you can't differentiate too much, or people aren't going to want it because it won't match their collection.
Because do we really know what it's going to be? Like, my assumption is it's new stuff and stuff based on cartoon, like new versions of existing characters and stuff. I'm not foreseeing like a Masters of the Universe Origins situation where it's going to be even more improved articulation with the same look. I don't know how that would work. But so that's what I'm assuming. Is it's going to be like the reaction line spun off into this.
Yeah, like I saw bits and pieces of the interview with Veebs over on Floosh, and it seemed like he was trying to be as vague as possible, like he wasn't ready to really get into the details yet.
Because we don't always know what they can and can't say. Just because it's one company, one toy company that owns, the rights to and license it to their toy company doesn't mean that they can just talk about it.
Yeah. Especially if like maybe the deals aren't finalized or anything like that, because that could also like hurt them if they fuck that up, and then Hasbro's like, actually no, we changed our mind because you said too much and we can't trust you or something like that. But I feel like, at least from a business standpoint, trying to go back and recreate all of what existed but better, that you can't survive that way, because those people have those figures. The chances of them spending $25 on a best, I mean, slightly better version, because I can't imagine that
Right.
you're going to be able to do too much without it being crazy expensive. I just don't see that having as big of a market as stuff that didn't
No.
get made.
I would agree. Yeah.
But then you also have to think, like, how much stuff that didn't get made, how long can that line survive then? Unless they make
Right,
do what
that's
they
why
used
I
to, where they
think it
make
would
like several
be-
paint variations.
Well, they'll definitely do that because it's Super 7 and they'll have different
They'll be like
exclusives and
Python
different things to play
Patrol and
for.
Tiger Force and
Yeah,
Night Force
exactly.
and
And not only that, just they'll have a glow in the dark one. They'll have a
yeah,
ultra,
the prototype,
whatever
7 different
one.
color
Yeah.
ones.
Yeah, I think it's. I don't even think it's going to be so much as like what didn't get made, but I think it's going to be a lot of comics and cartoons.
Mm.
Is what it's going to be. And because you can get a lot of life out of that because you can do the different color variations because Snake Eyes was like dark blue initially instead of like the figure that originally that was all black.
Mm-hmm.
And the second version he was kind of purple. And like so right off the bat, there's two versions of the most popular character that they can do. And same with Cobra Commander and Storm Shadow and things like that. And then you start getting into comics. If they have the rights to that, we don't know. But assuming they have some sort of thing what they're doing with reaction.
Yeah. And I hadn't even thought about this surprisingly before, but do we think that people are going to, because these are going to be like everything else Super 7 does, they're going to be made to order, and it's
I don't know, because reactions aren't.
That's true, but like I feel like these are more involved than reactions though.
They are. I would assume.
Are they? Outside of
I mean, the articulation, the fact that they has a metal bar with a fucking rubber band going up the torso, like it just,
or I wonder, like, I mean, if we're being honest, like it doesn't probably take that much to make a reaction figure to begin with. So like pricing wise, I don't want to say inflated, but like it's kind of high for what it costs them to actually make. So I imagine they're doing like decent margins on like reaction figures. So I just don't think that this is going to be like the hardest thing. This isn't the same as the making like an Ultimate figure by any means.
True.
So I would imagine it would just be the same thing.
But reaction also don't come with any accessories usually.
Sure, but we're also not talking about anything elaborate. I get what you're saying.
I don't know. I just don't see these being like it's going to show up one day, or you can pre-order it and it'll be here in 3 months. I think it's going to be at least 6 to 12 month wait. Like maybe not as long as we do with the Ultimates, but I can't imagine they're going to just be pumping these things out like nothing or anything, or the line will run its course almost instantly if they could pump them out.
Well, I mean, if the 5 points of articulation line has been able to go this far, they could at least do that with articulation. But what if they remake those?
They remake those. That's what they actually do. Is they're shaving down like all the like.
Mm-hmm. Just taking the ones
Brian Flynn's just at the headquarters, just shaving down all of the articulations. That way they can put the O-rings on.
At the torso.
Yep.
Yeah, with some scissors.
He doesn't get a Christmas break this year because he hasn't shaved down enough of the old figures yet.
Mm-mm.
Mm-mm. Oh, man.
So you're thinking like this is gonna be more akin to like Ultimates, where they announce something and then like a year later.
I don't know if maybe a year later, but then again, Ultimates are more than a year later nowadays.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's going to be as instant as Reaction is.
I'd be shocked.
It's like you said, Reaction is literally just a mold with a couple cuts in it.
Yeah.
Versus like this is going to have a lot more moving parts.
And
I don't think it's true the old O-Ring like figures, then you have the metal like pieces that go into it too.
It's not that Reaction is just that fast to make or whatever. It's just that they don't make them to order. They make them and they send them, and
I don't know. That's a big risk for a new line to be like, hey, let's just make a bunch and see what happens. Like,
but I mean, I think that if it's just more of if it's really more just a deluxe Reaction, then I kind of could see them just carrying over the Reaction business model at a higher price point.
I don't know why, but everything makes me think it's just not like a lesser version of an Ultimate. You know what I mean? Like a 3 3/4 of an Ultimate. It's more of just like a fancier Reaction. Is my assumption. So I feel like you said, it's just going to be here. They are.
Yeah. I'm
maybe
also
some like glow in the dark one, like stuff like that could be.
Oh, those will be con exclusives. Those will
More,
be those will be their NYCC, their SDCC, and those were released before Wave 1 of the actual line. But
It's usually how it goes.
I still have a hard time believing it's gonna be $25.
We'll see, because I don't.
With
That hasn't been. I don't think that's been.
Oh yeah, he hasn't talked about price point.
confirmed.
All he said is like I think he said fall of 2024.
Yeah.
Okay.
So like he has not. He was very tight-lipped. So I
don't think that even the nostalgia person would spend more than 30 on something like this, because
I think I'm seeing $29.99 being the price. That's where I'm at. That's what I think it's
the higher ones are like around 25, and those are extremely more detailed.
But depending on who you're capturing, though.
Yeah, I know.
Because
I'm just
I mean, by that logic,
$29.99
Super 7 Ultimates, like G.I. Joe Classified's highly more detailed and articulated than the Ultimates are, and those are $25. So that's Super 7's MO at that point, is to make a figure that isn't as appealing for more money because it's nostalgic.
True. But they do have to pay a licensing fee where Hasbro doesn't. So
that's
even if even at that point they'd be like $5 more, so $30 compared to $55.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just saying.
I don't know.
We don't know nothing.
We don't have any of the inside information. I mean, despite the fact that you had a lengthy conversation with Brian Flynn at PowerCon, like we really don't have any interaction with them at all. Aside from just watching from the outside as things just unfortunately unravel for them from time to time. But I hope that the figures come out good. I hope that there is a fandom that's there waiting for it, because I feel like Super 7 needs to be thrown a bone at this point, because they are.
Yeah, no, I want to see them have a win. Like I want to see them. It bummed me out that the crowdfunding thing didn't hit, but at the same time, though, like,
wasn't it?
Just looking at it from the perspective of it was $500 that would have funded or wrapped up 2 weeks before Christmas. I don't know anybody that's like, oh no, that's fine.
Yeah,
like
that's
just not. I know maybe the thought process was, well, that'll be their Christmas gift or something like that, but that's.
I don't know anyone who spends $500 on someone for Christmas. What, you gathering all my friends and family to fucking fund my my one gift that I'll get in 3 years.
On top of you putting your own money in on it.
Yeah.
Honestly, what they should have done, and maybe they'll do something like this, is they should have, rolled out an O-Ring line and then did this thing, or announce the O-Ring line, have it all set up at San Diego or something that you're going to show it off, and then you drop the mothership or whatever it was called there, and it runs through to the the end of September or the beginning of October or something like that.
Would have been significantly better.
Yeah, just any type of crowdfunding thing 2 weeks before Christmas. I mean, literally, like, I think it was supposed to have ended yesterday when we recorded this. So it's like 2 weeks, 1 day less than 2 weeks.
Was it like HasLab where it didn't charge you till it funded? Or did it charge you up front? Because they could use the logic, well, we gave you 2 months or 3 months or however long it was.
I don't know. I don't know how that works for them.
Time doesn't necessarily.
No, but like it wasn't necessarily like you were for sure getting hit 2 weeks before Christmas. You could have been getting hit back in October.
Yeah,
if you don't remember how long it
ran
then.
for. I know it ran for a while.
Yeah, because I feel like they announced it at NYCC, but I could be wrong. That would have been 3 months ago, or 2 months ago at this point. Yeah,
but still, 2 months isn't really even enough to. For some people, that's really difficult.
I'm one of those people.
$500,
I'm just saying that. The argument.
But again, I think there was an up and running 3 3/4 inch O-Ring wave or line that people could have got behind and then offered this. I think it would have worked really well.
Yeah, I feel like even if they would have done it, just the reveal differently of where like you're at STCC, you have Wave 1 on display of the figures, but then you have that on display with it, and people are asking like, well, is that going to be available, or is that just for you? kind of like how NECA does with like their displays. Like they had that last Ronin version of their Dio that they set up, and now there's interest in it to the point where they may make us something similar to sell for ridiculous amount of money down the road. Like,
yeah, and boom, then they show it at NYCC. 2 months later, they're like, "Look what we're doing!" Wow! And then you have waves 2 and 3 of the O-Ring, planned
already.
Okay,
Yeah.
I was like, they certainly ain't showing them off that soon.
No, but they've got them planned.
No, they'll show them off early.
And,
it just
or some little, what do they call those? The renders.
Oh, digital renders.
Yes. They can pump out some digital renders. I tell you what.
Yeah, they can.
That's actually Super 7's main export. The action figures aren't where it's at. It's digital renders.
Yeah,
they're the true NFT company, Jarmar. Like, you should be on the ground floor of this one.
Which, I mean, I'll give them that, because every time they keep pulling me back in, like, and every time I'm like, nah, I'm good. And then they show something and be like, what if we sold you this in the future? And I'm like, you know what? Super 7, pretty good company.
Yeah, every time this man gets a Super 7 figure for either cheap or it shows up finally, he is suddenly their biggest fan. After he's just like, man, fuck this company. I'm tired of waiting 6 years for my toys. And then it shows up, he's like, wow, man, we should really be investing in Super 7. They're great.
Did you take advantage of any of these sales?
I mean, really just the only two. The ones I had shown off, which if you're watching this, you definitely would know, but there hasn't really been any other ones. There's one that I'm kind of like, I should get, but I don't know. I feel like I'm waiting now. I'm like, give me those ones you've been showing, And honestly, not saying it's gonna happen. Has nothing to do with G.I. Joe. But man, if I could, maybe Michael might be, I don't know what happened to that turtle wagon. Entertainment Earth.
You want that?
I'm just saying. I don't know. It's been mulling around in my mind.
Be careful, because it's released.
Yeah, it's out.
Oh,
it's in hand with people.
Big Bad Toy Store got it. Like,
yeah.
So I haven't seen anything personally. This isn't G.I. Joe related. I'm just curious. I need to see it more, because I've been more impressed. But
I'll find a picture and send it to you once we're waiting to start the live stream. So. Let's go ahead and we'll close things out here. Nate, would you like to read the Patreon?
Oh, yes, of course.
Oh, do you want me to read the one?
No,
I'm joking. Oh, yeah.
All right.
Yeah, indeed.
So, first one comes from Boogeyman 13.
Ooh,
new to the Patreon, by the way.
Yeah.
Oh.
He started his free trial here this past week, so welcome
Please
to the
right
family.
By Boogeyman.
I think there are two perspectives here. Super 7 is hoping to tap into the member berries of our youth and tap into the market of those that still buy 1/18th scale figures. It's a smaller market, but it does still exist. And they've banked their product portfolio on retro brands and have that distribution network set up for it. So it makes sense for them to offer this as another nostalgia play. For Hasbro, it's free money, zero risk. If it succeeds, they get richer. If it dies a horrible death, and with the clear financial problems they're currently having, it lets them reach that 1/18th collector market while keeping their capital in the 1/12 classified line, which is guaranteed revenue.
That's one down. Yeah, I mean, he's got valid points across the board. Like, it is free money for Hasbro, so they have nothing to lose here.
It works. It works. Fuck it.
Yeah. And then the other one comes from our good buddy Stick the Taint. Brian Flynn is a liar. Period.
Short and sweet.
I would kind of like to know what he means by a liar.
I'm curious too, because like I'm not sure.
Yeah, any toy company, like, they can't necessarily talk about certain things.
I was gonna say they're
change.
all liars, but that works too.
I think,
oh boy,
judging from certain things, I think there's some things that need to be worked out.
Like in therapy or like kinks?
Hey, however,
what are we? What's happening?
That would be valued more.
All right. Well, on that note, let us know in the comments below where you stand. If you are a G.I. Joe fan and you are invested in the classified line, or you are a fan of the old original O-Ring line, or if you're still around and have the old 12-inch line, let us know how you feel about the revival of O-Rings with Super 7, what you're hoping to get out of it, what you think they might be, what price point you think they're going to be at, or what price point you'd willing to pay. Let us know in the comments below. I'm really curious to hear what people think about these ones, because it is a very risky choice to make with how successful the classified line is right now. And as always, if you enjoyed this video, please make sure to like and subscribe. It helps us out, gets you a bunch of toy-related content in your feed. We've got everything from reviews, how to pose videos, the weekly live stream, weekly podcasts, and weekly toy hunts. You can check us out on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at Modern Toy Fair. If you're already a fan of the channel, you can head over to patreon.com/Modern Toy Fair. Have several tiers of different rewards. You can have your input on the podcast read dramatically by Nate. You can get physical prints of the photos I take. You can get episodes of the podcast early, exclusive episodes of the podcast. You can get the toy hunt early, all sorts of stuff. Link in the description below. Check that out. We greatly appreciate it. You can check Jarmar out over at TikTok at Jarmar_games. And Nate, what do you have for us this week?
You know what? All this talk about O-rings. Let's see your O face.
Ours?
I mean, we could start there.
I mean, that's not what I thought you were going to say, which I'm mildly thankful for. On that note, hopefully see you next week. Same toy time, same Toy Fair channel. Thank you for watching.
Oh, no.
To do it now.
All right. A huge thank you to our Patreon members. Is that what it is? Are they members? Or are they followers? Sukma Taint, Jason Millar, Tavin Hernandez, Aaron Samples, the 45th Lyric, and last but not least, Christopher.